Ackman offers exactly what New York needs: competence, economic understanding, and the courage to lead with principle. Now, of course, she's a grifter, and she just wants money from Bill A. Ackman. I, on the other hand, want Bill A. Ackman to run and make a fool of himself. Operation, a real operation in place. On the other side, you got Bill A. Ackman, who, again, really abusing the Twitter no word limit, the word limit increase from Twitter. I do think people calls him Bill Smoke Crackman. I call him Bill A. Ackman. But honestly, I think Smoke Crackman is better because there is 0% chance that you're just like sitting there and writing this on your own without any sort of medical intervention. Like this is, you have to be on crack cocaine. Like you have to be smoking on crack to post this much, dude. Like this needs an outlet so bad, bro. He needs an outlet so bad. He needs his voice to be heard so bad. If he had like one friend, you know what I mean? People say this is Adderall shit, but honestly, I think it's meth. Like, I don't think you can just like rip Adderall and pump this out. Like this comes across as like something worse than that. Like you need something stronger than that, you know? And also, of course, the reason why Bill A. Ackman, Bill Smoke Crackman is going nutty is because his daughter is an anti-Zionist and a Marxist. Eloise Ackman went to Harvard, went to college, became a Marxist, #cliche at Harvard College. And he literally talked about it. He talked about what radicalized him as like this. His nephew enrolled at Harvard, as did his eldest daughter, which Ackman told me recently is where the trouble started. She became like an anti-capitalist, like practically a Marxist, Ackman said in January, leaning across large conference room table at the office of his hedge fund, Pershing Square. We talk about capitalism, and she would freak out at the table. His daughter was in the social justice studies department, just like her father, and rode crew too, but she had chosen to write her thesis on the concept of reification of Western Marxist thought, having come to very different conclusions than her father about how the world should work. Ackman said it felt as though she had been indoctrinated into a cult. That's where his resentment comes from. By the way, this is why I jokingly always say, jokingly but not so jokingly, that the reason why I'm public enemy number one for the ADL, for Jonathan Greenblatt, is that. This is the reason. Because Candace Owens is an anti-Semite. So Candace Owens or Dan Bilzerian is not going to make Jonathan Greenblatt or Bill A. Ackman's sons and daughters and nieces and nephews into designated anti-Zionists, because those guys are obviously anti-Semitic and they're simply using the issue of Israel and its unpopularity to drive home a scarier point. Their goal is not the emancipation of Palestinians. Their goal is not justice. Their goal is basically to make people more anti-Semitic than they already are. So from that framework, I present a way more significant threat, because in their minds, I'm like changing their immediate family members and the next generation of Jews and their perspective on Zionism. That's what it is. And on top of that, I'm not Jewish myself, so that obviously makes it an easier line of attack, because you can't constantly shit on Simone Zimmerman if you are a Jewish advocacy group. You can't constantly shit on anti-Zionist Jews as a Jewish advocacy group, because then everybody goes, I don't know about this. But if you're a prominent progressive political commentator who is of Muslim background, you can very easily hammer on this like, oh, this person is anti-Semitic talking point over and over and over again. But that's where it comes from. And that's also precisely the reason why, like, there are certain things I can't say that, like, Felix can say with ease, or Noah can say with ease. And certainly there are things that Zohran can't say either, especially when he's running for mayor. That is precisely the reason why he tones down his framework, his perspective. Yeah, this is the so for Bill Ackman, by the way, Ayaan Hirsi Ali came up with an incredible take. She's now Christian, by the way. She used to be one of those like former Muslim edgy atheists, and then she converted to Christianity. So, you know, obviously, as expected. and she wants Bill Smoke Crackman to run. Ackman offers exactly what New York needs: competence, economic understanding, and the courage to lead with principle. Now, of course, she's a grifter, and she just wants money from Bill A. Packman. I, on the other hand, want Bill A. Packman to run and make a fool of himself, which is why I am also on board. This is one of the very unique moments, one of the very few instances where I'm on board with something that Ayaan Hirsi Ali is saying, okay? For those of you who don't know, Ayaan Hirsi Ali is a psychopath, a played a formative role in European Islamophobia, and was one of those guys early on or one of those ladies early on that was constantly talking about like Islamic hordes coming into Europe and like ruining the beautiful Western civilization and whatnot, and she probably convinced a lot of people. She was like a new atheist, one of those like former Muslim new atheists that now has taken the Christianity pill, which was expected. She's no longer an atheist. She is now officially a Christian herself. Doors open. Okay. But yeah, she's one of these like Islamophobic grifters. As a duchy, how is Hirsi Ali still relevant? She's not. She's not. She's not really relevant at all. I would say that she lost her relevance like maybe she lost her relevance like probably 5, 6, 7 years ago. It's pronounced Hirsi, not Hershey. Oh, okay. I don't really care, but all right, good. Thank you. Hirsi. Ayaan Hirsi Ali. She was also mentioned by name in the Anders Breivik manifesto, for the record. Like, that's the kind of freak she is. I remember this working on me back in my teen era because I trusted her as a sincere advocate warning us about how bad Islam is, and I fell for it. Yeah, this is the role that these guys play. But yeah, I agree with her. I think Bill Ackman should do a write-in candidacy. Now, of course, this is what Bill is doing. CEO of Pershing Square, Trump booster, and an all-around Islamophobic sociopath. Bill Ackman has been cooking up a plan. Of course, everyone was wondering what this plan was going to look like. He was like, oh, well, I'm going through the motions and like trying to figure out what legal routes we have available to us. I'm not going to read all of this, but I'm just going to summarize it. Basically, he says that it's not that long of a time frame for you to run, right? He's putting out a call here saying, if you're a candidate who's young, dynamic, charismatic like Zohran, basically glazing Zohran, and then saying you're a part of the business community, you can run like a Bloomberg-style candidacy here, okay? And you can win because we have unlimited money to put on your candidacy. We have unlimited dollars that we can fund your candidacy with. Hundreds of millions of dollars are ready, okay? And yeah, Krang says, I'll say to save you from reading what appears to be 20,000 word tweet, Bill is offering gobs of cash to anyone who's willing to run against Zohran. I wonder if he ever stops to consider that optics of being a billionaire and doing this sort of thing. He's not. Okay. So he's saying that, like, I will give you hundreds of millions of dollars. We already have it ready to go. I've talked to some of my billionaire buddies. If you just like put up an opposition candidate against Zohran. However, there is also a legal hurdle here. It has to be a write-in candidacy because the stage is already set for who can run. That's why Andrew Cuomo had set up an independent line for himself in the general. That's what we talked about, if you recall. And that's precisely why Eric Adams had already set up an independent line under the Stop Anti-Semitism ticket. Okay? And whoever won the Democratic primary was going to run as a Democrat. Now, of course, the Working Families Party had also set up a Working Families Party line, potentially for Zohran Mamdani if he had not won the primary. But the point is, you have to set this up ahead of time. You can't just like add your name into the pile in the last second, which is precisely why if Bill Crackman wanted to create an alternative candidacy in the general election instead of like throwing his hat in the ring for any of these people that are already running, he would have to do a write-in candidacy, and that is not going to work. There is 0% chance. There is not enough money, and there's not enough resentment towards this incredibly popular candidacy of Zohran to actually put together a write-in candidate with 100 days or 200 days remaining. Now, he actually uses that as an advantage because he says the problem is that his policies would be disastrous for Zohran. He glazes Zohran, okay? And then he says his policies would be disastrous for New York. Socialism has no place in the economic capital of our country. The ability for New York City to offer services for the poor and needy, let alone average New Yorker, is entirely dependent on New York being business-friendly, blah, 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 all this bullshit. Basically, he says there is not that long of a time frame. If 100 or so of the highest taxpayers in my industry chose to spend 183 days elsewhere, it could reduce New York City state and citywide revenues by 5 to 10 billion or more. That's my industry. He basically says it's not going to be that long. Setup is extremely attractive for a run for mayor. There are only 132 days until the election, which means the commitment of time to run is de minimis. This will be the most closely watched mayoral election in New York City in decades, perhaps ever, which, particularly in the social media and podcast era, creates the opportunity for a new candidate to garner immediate name recognition, enormous media interest, and the visibility needed to get elected. He literally is saying, even if you don't want to run, please run, because honestly, it would be so sick if you ran. You can do podcasts. If you ran, you could get a lot of name recognition, and it's not that long of a time to run anyway. Please, it's like he's using this as a talking point. Why the f- do you think this would be a successful candidacy to unseat the guy who got more votes than Eric Adams did already? Like, remember, they're not even talking about the work that you need to do once you are mayor. This is just about trying to Zohran. Importantly, there are hundreds of millions of dollars of capital available to back a competitor Mamdani that can be put together overnight. Believe me, I'm in the text strings of the WhatsApp groups so that a great alternative candidate won't spend any time raising funds. So if the right candidate would raise his or her hand tomorrow, the funds will pour in. I'm sure that Mike Bloomberg will share his how to win the mayoralty IP and deliver his entire election apparatus and system to the aspiring candidate so that the candidate can focus on all of his or her energy on the campaign. One unfortunate fact, as far as I understand, is that the candidate will have to be a write-in. So, what's your opinion on Boko Haram in Nigeria? Bad. Very bad. What kind of question is that? It's like asking me what my take is on ISIS, dude. What are you, stupid? Yeah, I am not in favor of ISIS anywhere, whether it be in Africa or whether it be in Syria. What does it mean? I'm not up with the slang. It's a political terminology like backstabbing, like Julius Caesar getting shanked from multiple different directions. No, it is used in politics a lot. It means, yeah, see, look, ratting is an American slang term for behind-the-scenes covert political sabotage or dirty tricks, particularly pertaining to elections. Like literally, it's not. When I said it's like a political term, I'm not joking. Like that is where it comes from. It was brought to the public attention by Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein in All the President's Men, 1974, the book that chronicled their investigative reporting on the Watergate scandal. Like it's on Wikipedia. I thought this community made that shit up. No, dude. Didn't India Walton lose the general to a writing campaign? Yeah, for Buffalo mayor, dude. Do you think the mayor of Buffalo is the same as running with a major ground game? Yes. And also she lost to the incumbent, who then off, by the way, ironically enough. Oh God, the Buffalo one was so crazy. Yes, India Walton was a progressive mayoral candidate that won the primary, and the Democratic Party basically destroyed her chances by establishment Democrats sided with in New York politics, New York state politics, sided with the incumbent, and they launched this unprecedented write-in campaign, but he was already the incumbent, and it's Buffalo. It's not New York City. Like, there is a major difference there. To be fair, when I started watching you, I had to Google a bunch of stuff, a lot of the leading back to massive Reddit posts defining all the slang terms you use. Wait, really? There's a Reddit post out there explaining some of the slang terms I use? That's crazy. Yeah, there were less than 1,600 votes for the winner in that Buffalo election, literally one neighborhood in New York City. Byron Brown wasn't a write-in. He ran independent and paid for signatures. Not the same thing as a write-in election. Anyway, what was also crazy about that mayoral race, the Buffalo mayoral race against India Walton, is that the guy Byron Brown, who defeated, who served as the 62nd mayor of Buffalo, New York from 2006, resigned in 2024. And he resigned to go work for, I think it was like, what, a casino or something? What did he? Yeah, he works for like, he's a casino lobbyist now. Like while he was mayor, the establishment Democrats used Byron Brown to thwart a socialist mayoral candidate that fair and square won the primary. They turned around and they backed this guy. He won, and then he resigned. This article doesn't actually talk about where he went and why he resigned, for the record, but we know why he resigned. I think he's like working for a casino now. Yeah. Buffalo Mayor Byron Brown secures gaming license, allows for official move to Western Regional OTB. The mayor can now officially become the next president and CEO of Western Regional Off-Track Betting. Buffalo Mayor Byron Brown has secured his gaming license, which will allow the mayor to officially become the next president and CEO of Western Regional Off-Track Betting if he accepts the contract he was offered. Like, this was such a transparent, corrupt move. You had a person who wanted to do right by her constituents, who ran this people-backed candidacy, India Walton, and then the Democratic forces in the state that are unimaginably corrupt to have this piece of shit still remain the mayor. He didn't even want to be mayor. He just used his last run to, one, go over India Walton, and then two, secure a gaming license for himself, and then moved over to Western Regional. And he resigned. We need to introduce struggle sessions for Democrats who do this shit. Yeah. When I see stuff like this, I do understand why, like, we need to have the Red Guard student coalition, student council movement come in and do public struggle sessions. Like, just bring these guys up on a main stage and toss tomatoes at them as they renounce their former positions and their counter-revolutionary behavior. Like, I get it. I get how that happens, you know, straight up. Like, how do you let this happen? How do you let this go unpunished, you know? Western Regional OTB was off-track betting on horse racing, and they got a gaming license to have slot machines, and Brown resigned to take that position. Yeah. Now, I don't think Zohran is going to be the same situation, but there's a lot of attention on this, and it's going to be mostly like Republicans that are attacking him. My fear is that some of the establishment Democrats will also refuse to back him and will join in with the transparent will join in with the transparent attempts from the Republicans to thwart his chances of winning, because this is another moment where some establishment Democrats, some liberals, would rather watch someone a little bit more progressive than them lose instead of allowing them to win, and have people ask the question, why won't you do these things that Zohran is doing for his constituents, for us? So this race is not over yet. There are very real fears. You have Andrew Cuomo going back and forth on whether he'll entertain a run or not. You have Eric Adams that is trying to establish as much support as possible from the anti-Zohran forces, both within the Democratic Party, but also outside of the Democratic Party, the business, business leadership in the state and in the city. Alex Thompson reports for Axios. Inside the Democratic establishment meltdown over Mamdani's victory. Donors are trying to figure out if there's another way to stop him. Eric Adams, ? Reckoning over rallying behind Cuomo. Liz Smith, if you don't want to lose to a socialist, don't run a fake. Every Zohran interview goes like this.
Mamdani.
Oh, I saw this one. This is great. Yeah.
People see you, and they assume that you wish death to all Jews. How are you going to convince them you don't? But you do view Palestinians as people. I mean, that makes people uncomfortable, obviously. But do you love Israel? How much do you love Israel? You are obviously Muslim, so I don't really, that's kind of, people don't like that. Your skin's also pretty tan. People are getting uncomfortable. How are you going to convince them that you're not a terrorist? When are you going?
It's so crazy, and it speaks to the permissibility of Islamophobia and how permanent a fixture it's become in American politics, and how quickly Americans like snap back to this shit post October 7. That like questions like this are not immediately condemned. You know what I mean? People don't go, "What are you doing?" Like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean that you can like create a victimhood structure around the hysterics of one group and just like that gives you the opportunity to be as racist as you want? It is kind of wild.
When are you going to Tel Aviv? When are you going to Tel Aviv? Andrew Cuomo is representing Netanyahu. Why don't you do that? Is it because you don't love Israel? Why don't you love Israel? Do you think that Israel should exist as a Jewish ethno-state? You seem to think that it's okay to criticize Israel. Why? Why is that? It's because you're anti-Semitic. Okay?
It literally is just like, it's like a racist white guy running around saying, what is this? Y'all watch Fear In. It's like having a racist white commentator or like a racist white guy running around and being like, well, you're black. Why do you want to kill every cop? As a black candidate, your presence makes me fearful. It makes me feel like you are anti-Christian. It makes me feel like you want to take over the country and make it a black supremacist country. It's like, well, what are we doing? What is this shit? What is this shit? At a certain point, after, I don't know, the 700th time, people should be like, okay, I don't think he's anti-Semitic. I think he's anti-Israel. If you want to have a conversation
Did you watch
that's fine. Even though, you know, how much you want to have that conversation, probably not the best time to have that right now if you're pro-Israel, because not a lot of allies around. Okay? But it's just like, what are we doing? What are we doing here? So much of this is just like being a straightforward racist douchebag and operating under the assumption that your presence as a brown Muslim dude is scary. And your statements as a brown Muslim guy about Israel, extra scary, probably because you're anti-Semitic, right? Must be because you're anti-Semitic. Can you please admit that you're anti-Semitic so that we can finally, you know, let this stuff, let's put this to bed. You're anti-Semitic. You're anti-Semitic. You're an anti-Semitic guy because you don't understand. Your presence scares me. I am a supporter of Israel. I'm not even Jewish, but I'm like thinking about how other Jews are scared of your presence and your anti-Israel positions. So can you stop doing that? I will say, the Zohran victory has sparked some interest, even from more radical elements, more radical people that I do know that normally would scoff at the DSA into engaging with the DSA and engaging with electoralism. So that's actually kind of cool as well. Now, obviously, these groups are marginal. They're tiny. They're ultimately inconsequential. But like, the way I see it is if you got like well-read, ideologically minded people who consider themselves to be more radical in the DSA or whatever, but refuse to show support of the DSA up until now, getting on board, that means like normies are certainly going to be doing that in droves, right? So that's cool. Here is, I guess, Joe Rogan. I don't know what breezy politics is, by the way. My brother said that he started seeing this breezy politics stuff on his timeline a lot on his YouTube, and he's got like a very normie YouTube algorithm. So I don't know what this is. I don't know what's going on there, but he said he started seeing a lot of this breezy politics shit on his timeline.
New York City debates, the mayoral
I heard
debates.
I got involved and I'm supporting Mr. Mamdani.
A lot of people are. Well, especially after that debate.
Right.
It seems like everybody else was essentially saying, I've been to Israel more than you've been to Israel. I'm going to go to Israel before you do.
Right. They think they're campaigning to be foreign, minister for Israel or something.
Where would you go first?
The Holy Land.
Go to Israel.
Fourth trip to Israel. First trip to Israel.
Mr. Mamdani.
I would stay in New York City.
That's so awesome. I love Breezy is 100% anti-Semitic. At least the comment section in the videos are explicitly HasanAbi. I've seen it on Instagram as well. Yeah, I don't know who this guy is. I just saw, the only time I heard about it is from my brother. But I will say this. I love seeing the normie perspective and what their takeaway. Long interview, like this long debate. It was like 2 hours long, right? And it's so funny that is what remained. That is what they were. That was their primary takeaway, because that's what the media wanted to be the primary takeaway. I think this was a severe miscalculation. Okay, I'll be honest. I think it was a severe miscalculation. They just kept hitting over and over again this like Am Israel high line, and they thought that they could attack Zohran with that at a time when, especially in the Democratic Party, there is an immense amount of resentment towards Israel and the outsized role it plays in American foreign policy. So perhaps not a good line of attack that only ended up promoting the politician that stood against that kind of thing and said, no, that I'm going to stay in New York. I'm running for mayor of New York. So that's what it felt like to me. And they got lost in the anti-Israel, anti-Semitism angle of attack so hard that they didn't even hit Zohran on like he's inexperienced, he wants to defund the police, he's like pro-gay or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, I think Zohran still would have won in spite of a more aggressive campaign that like a more aggressive messaging campaign against Zohran that featured some of the other things, right? If they were to like actually hit Zohran on like how young he is or how he said he wants to defund the police or all this other shit, like I do think that would have made a bigger dent, but I think he would have still been able to overcome. He would have been able to withstand that pressure. I think he would have been able to overcome all of that pressure. But because they were so invested in the Israel stuff, which is an incredibly unpopular position amongst the regular public, and an even more unpopular position amongst the Democratic voter base, that is an incredibly popular position in the media and in our politics, that dichotomy, that difference in opinion caused them to miscalculate. Because Israel, incredibly popular in Congress, most popular, okay? Israel, incredibly popular in the media, most popular nation state in the media. But amongst the public, Israel is very unpopular, and especially unpopular, like 80% disapproval when it comes to the Democratic Party. And this is a closed primary race for the Democratic Party in the city of New York. So they thought, oh, there's a lot of Jews in New York, and all Jews, as you know, only care about Israel. Classic, right? Like, they believe their own bullshit. This goes back to what I constantly think about, I always say, like, are these guys stupid or are they malicious? Oftentimes they're both, right? Oftentimes they're both stupid and malicious. But it does feel like, to me, this much Zohran Mamdani doesn't with Israel sentiment came from a place of stupidity, where they actually believed their own lies, that all Jews care about is Israel. That's all they care about. And there's a lot of Jews in New York. There's a lot of Democratic Party voters that are Jewish in New York. They're super overrepresented in primaries like this. So clearly, because they all care about Israel, and the only thing they care about is Israel, if we just hit this line of attack, then Zohran is toast. He's cooked. It's over. They must have believed their own lies. Otherwise, if they were actually smart, if they actually had, even apex attitude on this, regardless of how evil it is actually very smart in the way that they run against anti-Israel candidates. They never really talk about Israel. AIPAC does not run ads on candidates, attack ads on candidates, and heavily feature Israel at all. So many of these advocacy groups like Democratic Majority for Israel, AIPAC, these groups and the other ones that they create, these like other corporations and other PACs that they create under the banner of AIPAC without actually even, while trying to hide their association with AIPAC, will oftentimes focus not on Israel, but on attack ads that directly pertain to the race. Because AIPAC understands that they don't give a, like most people don't care about Israel. Like they don't give a shit. If you were to look at like the millions of dollars that they dumped into the race against Cori Bush, for example, they never talked about Israel. They never actually talked about Cori Bush's opinion on Israel. They never featured that at all because who the would care in Cori Bush's district about Israel? Are you kidding me? AIPAC knows that. So the dumbasses in both the media and the dumbasses that were in the tank for Cuomo, and Cuomo himself unironically, stupidly believed this lie that like, oh, if they just constantly hammer on this Israel point, then they'll be able to effectively dismantle Zohran's campaign. If they constantly just like keep yelling about how Zohran is anti-Semitic and how he's not sufficiently pro-Israel over and over again, that the Jewish electorate that has an outsized representation in the New York primaries in the Democratic Party will come out and vote against them, not realizing that New York Jews are New Yorkers. They're not Israeli. If they wanted to live in Israel, they very easily could live in Israel. There are a tremendous amount of incentives to go and live in Israel if you're Jewish, okay? There are. You get free health care, first and foremost. They will even subsidize your housing. Why wouldn't you want to go and live in Israel if you cared about Israel that much? The very fact that New York Jews don't want to live in Israel implies that they're New Yorkers. They're American. They're not Israeli. And if you're a New Yorker, regardless of your religious background, regardless of your worldview, you got New York problems. And you're going to want to vote for a mayor that's going to address these New York problems. Ortadaki ne? O değil. Söylemedim. Ortadaki. 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 Söyleyeyim şimdi değil mi? Bagel. While I was doing an interview earlier today, my dad, while walking Kaya, fell at the park. And I got really scared. I forgot to mention that. I'm just getting him a bagel right now, but it's fine. He just like fell on his side a little bit. He's all right. He's just got like a little bit of a muscle issue. Luckily, I don't think it's like a break or anything. It's not like a fracture or anything. He's all right. He's good. But yeah, I will tell you exactly how this happened. They do not know Jewish people. They don't have Jewish friends in their life. The only Jewish people they know are lobbyists for Israel, so they have no idea what the average Jew gives a shit about, which is progressivism. Yeah, for sure. Like, this doesn't mean that there aren't Jewish people that have an outsized interest in Israel. There certainly are. A big chunk of those Jewish voters, however, vote for the Republican Party anyway. They consistently and reliably vote for the Republican Party. Scoop, post-primary poll shows 36% of general election voters support Zohran Mamdani's pledge to arrest Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu if he visits New York City on his watch. 45% of voters oppose an arrest, while 19% are undecided. Yeah, I don't know if I believe this, but we got to get those numbers up if that's the case. You know what I'm saying? New York Jews and LA Jews are very different in my opinion. I mean, of course, that's everything though. That's like New York Muslims and LA Muslims are different, you know? That's the point. Jews are not like a unique group that is monolithic in nature. Like, that's not the case. They're not super special magic people. We got to stop with this like underlying weird notion that they are. Yeah, New York pizza is different than LA pizza. You know what I'm saying? That's just how it is. Yeah, New York pizza is better. That's not even a question. Calm down. I'm not saying that it's not. Connecticut down, everybody. Number one article on New York Times this morning. Mamdani's success spotlights a deepening rupture among U.S. Jews. While Zohran Mamdani won over some Jewish supporters of the Jewish Democrats, suggests that, yeah, this is bullshit. They're just like still beefing up this narrative. My Republican dad who lives in Arkansas sent me the campaign video of him at the halal cart and asked if this was the guy the news was calling anti-Semitic. I said yes, but he's getting attacked for being a progressive brown guy. He said he doesn't know about that at all, but he wants to make food cars cheaper and is speaking his language. Progressive policies are popular. You don't need to capitulate to right on immigration. Axios, Dems are plotting to take down Zohran. Actually, New York pizza was invented in Tel Aviv and LA pizza was invented in Jerusalem in the 1970s. Okay, good one. Today, I learned from a guy at Barcelona on TikTok that the country of Turkey has the highest body count of any country in the world. Care to comment? What do you mean body count? I don't know what that means. Anyway, let's watch this real quick. Mamdani win. It was about time for the turnaround.
In the New York Democratic primary, defeating former Governor Andrew Cuomo. Mamdani ran one of the most unapologetically pro-Palestine and socialist campaigns in New York electoral politics history, which marked a significant moment in progressive organizing here in the city. Although his campaign focused on bread and butter issues such as public transportation or housing, a lot of the conversation that revolved around Mamdani was on his critique of Israel, which his opposition used to demonize him in an attempt to portray him as anti-Semitic. We're asking the city what Mamdani's win last night might mean for New York, which has never seen a young South Asian Muslim mayor, and whether they think he'll win in the mayoral election in November.
He genuinely ran a campaign. I think Cuomo even admitted it. Like, he ran a very strong campaign where he was able to get amongst the people, especially the youth, get them out to vote. It's a left-leaning city, but I think we're even going farther to the left and like reaching more into the socialism aspect, which I think was a big part of his campaign. So I think it's exciting. Also, a Muslim brown man as a mayor of New York City is indicative of like maybe a changing of the tides of the broader political climate in the U.S. as well. Maybe a general movement, and this has happened in recent elections. When you think about the presidential elections, like maybe it's time for some newer blood in the political scenes. Obviously, Trump and Biden, like very old candidates. And so I think maybe that's also a trickle-down effect onto Cuomo.
Him winning speaks a lot to what New Yorkers believe in. They believe in diversity, and I stand with that, obviously, as a South Asian woman myself. So I think as somebody who sees myself in him, I think it's really exciting to see that New York also embraces that kind of culture and that heritage.
Especially for Gen Z kids of color, Muslim kids, I think the Democratic establishment has this idea that being moderate and being centrist in a lot of their views is what's going to galvanize the Democratic Party, and trying to see if we can like meet in the middle and get like this huge like grasp on all of America. But to have somebody so clear on his values and where he stands, especially with Palestine, I think galvanized a lot of Gen Z, especially with like the recent presidential election. I think everyone all over America, especially Gen Z folks, have questioned a lot of the Democratic Party and the Democratic establishment and wanting them to take more stronger stances. Having somebody that's progressive and believes in our values, that we also continue to be advocates for those platforms, that we continue to hold politicians accountable. You know, Zohran winning the primary and inshallah winning mayor, we still have to have that accountability relationship with our politicians.
I was really proud of my city for pulling through. I think it was about time for a turnaround and for us to vote for someone who actually cares about representing the city and the people. And I think he really proved his point well during those interviews when people were constantly asking him about his support for Israel and how he was, you know, he didn't really respond to it because he knew that they were going to try and trap him. So him responding and being like, I'm here to represent, happily talk with the Jewish community in New York, like that's where I belong, you know, that's what my position is. And I think that alone, like, I really wanted to stand with him after that. I was like, yeah, that's the whole position, that's the whole point of being the mayor of New York. We're finally realizing that the government is supposed to represent us, the people, and that we actually do have the power to speak up and change things. We just have to utilize the community and come together. And I think that this mayoral race really kind of showed how.
Can we stop glazing Palestine? Basically, Israel doing the work of the world. Israel over Iran, to be honest. Giga Chad. Iran really asking for it. Can we stop glazing Israel, please? Or can we stop glazing Palestine? Israel number one. No politic here. No politic here. Stop glazing Palestine. There is no P in the Arabic language. How can you say Palestine? There is no P. There is no P sound in the Arabic language. It's not real. Palestine is not real. I love how absolutely educated these people they were interviewing sound. Yeah. There is no P. No politic here. Israel, number one. Israel, number one. I unbanned them because I wanna hear more incredible takes from that chatter.
How that can really turn things around. And I think that after this, I hope that New York will come together more and really start to utilize our power as the people to fix what we want fixed.
We're gonna get Stalin Island. Daniel just sent me the video, the kneecap video. Zohran Mamdani won an admittedly small precinct in Totenville on the southern shore of Staten Island. Last November, those blocks gave 80% of the votes to Donald Trump. Mamdani only trails Cuomo by 9% on Staten Island. Yeah, we'll talk about the kneecap video as well. Their manager just sent it to me. As an Israeli, I have some things to teach you. What do you want to teach me? As a black man, you are wrong. As an Israeli, I have some things to teach you. You never know that we were a sleeper cell before you wake up. I'm ready. When did you start shaving your unibrow? Okay. Where were we? Never let him know your next move. Yeah, exactly.